Okay, people, it's that time again. And you know what that means. It means you need to pay attention here because we got some really cool stuff to show you guys. First of all, how many of you remember seeing this print before? I sure do, because how could I forget doing 1,000 people in a single scene? Amazingly, I actually have a hard time with taking photo reference. I'm actually more comfortable with using my stuff for my scrap file. Like if I needed a little keyed in a winter outfit, I would look through the Sears catalog that I've had since 1980, that they no longer have, for shame. I remember had a little keyed come over and pose for this little girl right here, but it didn't look anything like her. And the poses don't work out the way I see them in my head, so I don't know how, I don't quite know how these things work out, but I remember I had somebody posing for this stuff right here. I don't remember how many people. All this stuff here has to be researched and cleaned off. We got to get it out of the mothballs here. This little kid, I had a good shot of his face, and I kind of changed the lighting on him. But God, the insanity that goes into this stuff, and of course you can't let it go because it has to be right. So this was done what, a couple years ago? Yeah, a couple years ago. Being from Wisconsin, this is a memory from being a little kid myself, little dude. So all these things, you know, it comes from a very bizarre sense of imagination. But I wanted to show you that as Christmas approaches here. One more Christmas. It seems like I just turned my head and it's time for another live stream. Moving on here, you guys remember my Bison from last week? There's my Bison. These are my practice sheets right here. And here's another practice thing going on here that I didn't finish yet. We have a lot of guys that sent in cool stuff for the Bison contest, and I'm quite proud of these guys here. Let's start at the beginning here. J. Michael Whalen, not the Michael Whalen, but another J. Michael here. Buffalo Simon, I couldn't make out the left side of the photo reference, so I just did the best I could. I don't know what this was done with right here, but God, it almost looks digital to me. A very nice job. These kind of things right here just need a little more attention to detail, like cleaning up the horns here a little bit. Everything else is good. They need to be symmetrical. They don't need to be chop. They need to be one curved C curve here with a sense of the whole thing being one form. So you would have a highlight going like this and then a shadow going like this, and that would make the form round. Briar Babcock here. This is interesting. Here's my stab, Steve. Lots of fun. Needed to break out the watercolors more often. That's what I like to hear. If I can get you guys back on the trail again, the happy trail of being an artist, that makes me happy too. One of the prominent things that I want to do in the show here, is to get you guys back in the saddle again. Tristan, this is a very interesting person who's doing his very best to help us increase our sales here. So quite the guy apparently. So before we go, what in the spickle spit is this? It's his first try at watercolor, first try with ink, brush, and nibs. So that is truly a novice here. So just a new guy, happy to be here. Everyone's work is very impressive. I have to learn. I have so much to learn, looking forward to working till the end to improve. We all have to start somewhere, right? This has actually got some interesting qualities to it. This looks like something that would come out of an Andy Warhol print. You know, Bison has a human eye and a human mouth and a very funny shaped head. But if you've ever seen The Elephant Man, you know that this is quite probable in the world out there. Ben Gaston, like the guy from Beauty and the Beast, right? Sorry to post again, feel free, but I had to fix the shape of his jaw and mouth, still painted with transparent and opaque watercolor. This is very impressive work right here. A lot of you guys are what I would consider to be kind of in the middle of your careers as far as accomplishment goes, because there's a lot to be said for this. This is the kind of stuff I would expect a place like Cal Arts to accept your work when you were like in your early 20s. And again, I don't know the age of these guys here, but they're either young guys wanting to get into the field, or they're guys that are established but haven't really cracked out the paints that often. Again, that's one of my things I hope to do right here. So that's the Bisons for you guys to relish there. More to come here. J. Michael Whalen sent in another thing right here, a piece he did as a tribute to Dave Stevens. At first I thought this was an actual photograph. But in fact, it's actually paint. I don't know what kind of paint, but it looks like a very credible job. Okay, this is a guy named Gabriel Stockton. At least I can pronounce that name. I'll read what he has to say here. I'm a watercolor artist and ambassador with Daniel Smith Watercolors. Dan Smith Watercolors has recently opened the door to sketch cards with Upper Deck. And I know the rude dude enjoys watercolor. I enjoy it like a sore tooth, but what can I say? It's very hard to master that stuff. But I do like doing it because it's a challenge, and I like anything that's a challenge. Gabriel writes on here, I thought I would start by sharing 3 of my works of art before I started sharing the new adventure. Guy is apparently quite the traveler here. Most of my career has been from painting on location. Boy, I'm envious of that. I just returned from Bratislava, Slovakia. Apparently there's an international watercolor festival there. And it was very helpful to work from the actual video where I could find the best fire, the glow of the hammer, and move on the leather apron. The move, I guess that would be the motion. So he goes on to say, during one of the Steve Rude Lives, he shares the importance of a good cape movement. So I watched the video over and readjusted this painting. For that, I'm grateful to the Rude Dude. Well, we're grateful to you for sending this in here, Gabriel. What I'm looking at here, since this is kind of the critique portion of the stream here, this just needs refinement. What I would say is it needs a value scheme that denotes, when you've got a lit scene with fire, the best thing to do with a scene like that is to make it dark everywhere. So all you can see is the fire as a focal point. This guy's got a lot of good stuff going on here, but it just needs refinement. And to get refinement, I don't advise being a self-taught artist. I'm certainly not. And the only reason I can do half of what I do is because I had really good teachers. And I continue to have them throughout my life. Not, it hasn't been for a while, but I've seen my share, and I've learned a lot of stuff. So Gabriel continues here with, apparently this is actually quite nice right here. This is a very good simulation of a photorealistic thing. If you look at it from a distance, it looks like a photograph. So in other words, he's got all the values right, he's got the cast shadows right, and he's got these guys in a backlit situation there. And it's quite good, actually. And he goes, sometimes I go over to this plane hangar and do some plein air sketches. On that particular day, this father and son were pushing out the plane from the shop. Nice father and son activity there. I learned to do video and then later to do a screenshot. Well, you got one over me there. This is a half sheet of watercolor. So a half sheet would be 20 by 30. There's a lot of editing where there was more planes in the distance, and on the far right, auto made it too busy. So I wanted to focus on the story of the father and the son pushing out the plane. One of the things I wanted to comment on was he edited the what was in reality. Now every artist of my ranking knows that you're selective about what you choose to put into the painting. If something doesn't work, you get rid of it. That's half the fun of being an artist, is learning what you don't need to make the painting work. And this is right here, this is dear to my heart because I'm from the freezing climes of Wisconsin. This painting took second place in a San Diego art fair where there was over 1,500 entries. The goal was to make you feel cold in this winter scene of Idaho. Well, Idaho, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Chicago, don't even think about it because you're going to freeze your butt off. And I am so glad I don't live there anymore. But yeah, when you look at this carefully, I can see why he got second place here. It very much signals the feeling of freezing cold. And if you guys are from anywhere near in the Midwest where it's freezing like that, about now, actually, you can feel it. You look at it and you can feel it without even having to see a picture of it. Someone else sent in something new here. This is a guy named Roman Gubsky. And he says he'd love to hear some feedback and critique on my stuff. Thank you. All done with ink and watercolors. This guy is actually getting very close to being a professional artist right here. If he works really hard and finds ways to expedite the learning process, make it faster than he would if he was just on his own, I would say in a year's time he would be ready to go. He's well underway already, and he's got a style that's very reflective of the current trends of today, and it's a nice style. It's a kind of a cross magna style that features a bit of a caricature in the figures. That's it for the stuff you guys sent in. Thanks for sending in your stuff. Let's do more critique stuff next week. Let's keep the Patreon members going strong here because that's really what the backbone of where the Pentagon is coming from. So very much appreciated that. As we sign off, as we always do, for another Steve Rude live stream, work hard, be good, and I want you to achieve all your goals. Work hard for that. Take care.